Good morning.
Good morning.
We are at McCarthy. We made it out to McCarthy. So we're actually into day 2 of the next month. But we're going to give you a 1-month budget review of our travels, of our 4-month planned vacation here in Alaska.
So I guess we'll start with the cost of our fuel, because that's usually the pretty big one. We've driven 3,824 miles, and we've spent $1,118 on fuel, which we're averaging about 14.7 miles a gallon, which is pretty good considering when we were in Canada, we had some really terrible headwinds the whole time we were in Canada, and we also budgeted $800 a month for the fuel. So we're a little bit over, but the first part of your trip, you usually drive quite a bit. So
we're close to almost halfway of our miles expected.
Yeah, so we're pretty good shape for our budget on that. And the most expensive fuel we bought was in Buckinghorse River, which ended up being $6.26 a gallon, American.
By the way, all these numbers have been converted from Canadian to American because our American Express credit card does that for us. So our actual expenses are all in US dollars.
Mm-hmm. So I think that covers the traveling pretty well.
Okay, and we did start out with a full tank when we left home. Yeah. And that's not really figured into here. So, but we figure when we get home, we'll go home with a full tank because we usually park it in the yard with a full tank.
Yeah.
So that kind of averages out. Okay, the next one up on the list here, we've written this down, is camping. So our budget we have set was $25 a day, and that comes out to about $750 a month. So that's $3,000 for the entire trip for 4 months worth of camping. So what we did so far was $671 for camping. So we're under budget for pretty good amount. Let's see, $80 under budget. We did do 2 Walmarts in the trip, of course, and then we did 4 free campgrounds, which were Dyea, Burwash Landing, and Mud Bay. And we did spend 2 nights at Dyea, and did we do 2 nights at Burwash Landing?
I think so.
Yeah, and 1 night at Mud Bay. So that means the other 23 nights were paid nights at campgrounds. The highest we paid was $65 a night at Valdez, and we knew we were splurging for that one. But it was such a nice site, and it was right on the inlet for Prince William Sound, and it included everything. It was a really nice place. And normally, we don't spend that kind of money. But we did do 2 nights there at $65 a night. The cheapest one we paid for in Canadian dollars after it got converted to US was $12.91 at Million Dollar Falls in British Columbia. Mm-hmm. Was that crossed into the Yukon yet? Well, anyhow, Canada.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are under budget on our campground, and that's pretty good. Usually, we just stay rustic type camping. It's not too often we stay with hookups. But during the month of May, it has been extremely cold yet at night that there are a few nights on purpose we took campgrounds with hookups because we have electric tank heaters, and using them through our inverter off our battery power will just drain it right down. So we did on purpose choose campsites with electric. And so I'm assuming now as we get into June, July, and August, there will be less of a need to choose those type of campsites. They'll be more rustic, like what we're doing here in McCarthy. Technically, we are in a big camping area next to their parking lot, and we're paying for the benefit of parking close. We could have parked up the road a couple miles and walked down to town, but we decided to spend a little bit. Oops, that's our alarm for messages from my daughter. There we go. Got that. Okay, so what's next?
Um, Propane, filling the propane tanks, we spent $128 um, just on propane, which really isn't too bad considering the type of weather we've been having so far.
Yeah, we've been averaging about 50 degrees during the day and down in the 30s or even the 20s on some of the nights.
Yep.
So I expect that one to be a little less of a bill when we, move forward into June, July, and August.
Yeah.
Well, besides the heat, we have propane for the refrigerator, propane for the water heater, and propane for the stove and oven for cooking.
Mhm.
And, because we do use that a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, food. Our budget is $100 a week. And that sounds kind of low, but we stocked up a lot before we left home. We basically cleared out our pantry and our freezer and our cabinets. So we are well stocked with dry goods and canned goods and all that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For meat, as long as it's in the original wrapping for where it shows where it was purchased, you can take your frozen meat along in the freezer, with the exception of chicken over the borders. So our freezer is well stocked with, our favorite bacon. I mean, we brought like 3 or 4 months. We brought our favorite breakfast sausage, our favorite bratwurst patties.
Mm-hmm.
So we brought a lot of our own meats from home that we had to really strategically pack in the freezer, kind of like Tetris. We have bought some meats along the way. So we really, the food budget is hard to determine because, like I said, we brought a lot. And right now, during this month, we spent 224 for food for the month, which of course the month is 400. But right now in the freezer, I mean, we probably have another 16 meals worth of meat. So it kind of the months overlap. So the food is kind of hard to gauge. Also, if we were home, we'd be spending that much on food anyhow. So it's hard to put food into a budget when you're RVing traveling.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
that's a tough one. Now, one special expense that we do have for traveling is, although we have really good roadside emergency assistance with our American family, which we have utilized in the past with our large motorhome for towing, it can be rather tricky to tow a motorhome because the first time you call, they'll send a little tow truck that can't help you. So we do have really good coverage with American Family, and we made sure it would cover us in Canada. And it's roadside assistance. It covers tires. It covers, to help you change a tire or to repair a tire or bring another one at your cost for the tire, but to get it mounted and put on. It covers things like fuel shortage, running out of fuel, locking yourself out accidentally. We carry the extra premium for the windshield glass replacement. So those are already included in our American Family, but we did opt for the additional CoachNet insurance for RVs. And that was because of the policy where if one of us is hospitalized, it will medevac us back to the States and it will return your RV for you. And it will also return your traveling partner. So if something were to happen to either of us, the opposite person also gets returned. And that cost was $249 a year. So we bought that just for peace of mind. So that was one extra RVing expense. Other extra expenses, let's see.
We bought one container of DEF for the motorhome.
That's diesel emissions fluid. Is that what stands for?
I think so.
Exhaust fluid?
Yeah.
Something about that.
And we went to Canadian Tire and we spent I bought the higher cost stuff, not knowing, what the grades they have in Canada. So we ended up spending about $29.44 US for 2.5 gallons. So it's It's not the worst, but it's a little bit more money, probably about $10 more than if we were buy it at home.
Okay, and then some of our other extravagant expenses. We bought the cinnamon rolls at Tetsa River Lodge. We splurged. We bought cinnamon rolls to eat there, one,
Yep.
and two more to take with us for two more breakfasts. They're so large, you have to split them in half
Yeah, we
and share them.
can't eat one by yourself, I
No.
don't think.
No. So we did buy 3 cinnamon rolls. So that was $27 plus a nice tip for the owner. And then we did buy cinnamon rolls in Skagway at a little bakery. And that was $12.50, but they weren't nearly as good. Not as good as Tetsa.
No.
One of the other expenses that we've had is my wireless microphones went to heck, which is really irritating. I did switch over to a corded Purple Panda microphone, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm not sure if there's a broken wire in there. And I've had to throw out footage because there's no talking, no sound. So we did stop by a Radio Shack, actually two of them, and trying to replace, and we aren't finding it. So I think once we get towards Best Buy in Anchorage, they do have the Rode microphone system, wireless, that's supposed to work with my GoPro. So I might invest in that. It's rather pricey. It's about $200, but it'll work. But in the meantime, while I was at Radio Shack, I did buy a little adapter hub for my laptop for multitasking on my tablet. Makes it a little easier for downloading photos. So that was $39. That was an expense that was different. One of the other things we invested in, that's you.
Yeah, we kind of broke down and bought the 1 pound refillable kits with two refillable canisters for propane, and we were thinking about buying that before we actually went on this trip, and we didn't, but we bought it here at Three Bears, which wasn't too badly priced.
No, it was only $2 more than what Amazon had it for.
Yeah, so we ended up spending $75 on a refill kit and 2 refill bottles.
Now, these are the 1 pound little green throwaway canisters that people normally buy, which run our cooking grill, or it can run a camp light, or it can run a little catalytic propane heater that we sometimes set up to supplement the heat. And refilling them from our 1 pound larger cylinder, 1 gallon, I'm sorry, we refill the 1 pound bottles. And Steve had been refilling the little green canisters with this little device, but didn't always refill them full. And
you have to have the temperatures right, to do that. So this makes it a little bit easier to do.
Yeah, those green ones, after you refill them so many times, they don't refill correctly. They're not made to be refilled, whereas the ones you bought now are made for it, right?
Correct.
And those are from Mr. Buddy Company, right?
Was it Mr.? I don't know. They're called
Camp Heater or
Keg. I think they're called Keg, but I can't
yeah,
remember.
but the main.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Oh, well, I'll put a link below to the ones that we were going to buy on Amazon, which are the same ones that we ended up buying at Three Bears. Okay. So let's see. Laundry. There we go. When we used to travel in our big safari, we had a washer dryer built right in, and we enjoyed that when we would travel. I really hate laundromats. I mean, if you're traveling and you go to a city type laundromat, it's kind of the luck of the draw. We were one in Arkansas where we were told, if we move somebody's laundry out of the wash machine to use it, we might get knifed, So I hate going to laundromats unless you go to RV parks where there are laundromats included, laundry facilities. You're kind of forced to go to city ones, and I really didn't like that. So this month, because we did go to quite a few RV parks that had electric, they also had laundry facilities. So we used those. I don't know what's going to happen as we come into June, July, August. I do have a little teeny portable washing machine to do, maybe socks and underwear and things like that, or a couple t-shirts, and that's kind of cute. sometimes we carry a portable Costway washer spinner that rides in our shower stall. But we didn't take it this time because we were kind of short on space. So we have had to use laundry facilities in RV parks, and we're not happy about it, but we did. So for the month, we spent $39 on laundry. And it's not so much the laundry itself, but it's having to go find one and parking in a city and then schlep your laundry in and sit and wait for, an hour to wash and, 45 minutes to dry, and, kind of cuts into your day. And we would just prefer to not do that. So we'll see how it goes in the next couple months. But I'm not opposed to washing in the little portable unit I have with a couple gallons of water and hanging things on a line in the woods. Okay, restaurants.
Yeah, we haven't done any restaurants other than we were in a little town before we crossed over into Canada that actually had a Godfather's Pizza, which is Karen's favorite pizza. So we had to buy that. So we bought a pizza, and then we bought, of course, cinnamon rolls, and that's it for going out to eat.
Yeah.
Which was a total of $19.26
for the pizza.
Oh, for the pizza.
Yeah, and then the cinnamon rolls were 27 and 12, so that's $40.
Yeah.
So altogether, $60 for restaurants.
Yeah, so
for the month.
We don't do restaurants very often.
No. We cook all of our own food. We cook nice meals. We're not just, doing burgers and brats over the campfire. I've done a couple roasts in the pressure cooker. We've done, some nice baked dinners, some casseroles. We generally enjoy our cooking. We share our cooking. It's something that we've that's been our choices. It seems like after we eat restaurant food, we find it to be very salty, very greasy, very expensive.
And usually you have to wait quite some time before you receive your dish. So.
Oh yeah, you wait to get menus, you wait to order, you wait to get your food, you wait to get your bill. It's just, it can take like 2 hours out of your day to go out to eat. So we don't appreciate going out to eat. It's just never been our thing for a long time. So we have one other tourist thing we've done. While we were in Skagway, I found a quilt shop, and I really restrained myself, but I did find some specialty Alaskan quilt fabric. And I found an adorable little homemade or handmade seam ripper from a local wood carver in Skagway. So I spent $47.20. Yeah.
Okay, one of the added traveling expenses we had was we decided to take the ferry from Skagway to Haines. And that was the cost of, what was it?
$187.
And that included the 26-foot motorhome and then 2 people riding along. What was that cost? I forget what it was.
That was all included in one. Yes. Yeah, it was the passage fare for both people. Steve got the senior citizen rate, and mine was the adult rate. And then the motorhome measured at 25.5 inches. So they rounded up to 26 feet.
Yeah.
And the dog is included free, but you have to note that you have him. And
they have to stay in the motorhome during the ride.
Yep. And we have to go up on deck. We can't stay in the motorhome on the ride.
And it was about an hour and a few minutes, I guess.
But the ferry ride across from Skagway to Haines saved us 400 miles of driving around to get to the same place. Mm-hmm. So the $187 that we spent versus 400 miles worth of fuel.
Yeah.
Plus it was a cool experience. So total it all up. Grand total.
Yeah. Grand total so far, we spent $2,386.85.
Yep.
Which really is under budget because we budgeted $3,000
Mm-hmm.
So it ends up being $76.99 a day, which is
Our total traveling.
totally traveling. So it
Yeah.
sounds pretty reasonable to me. I don't know.
So that's taking care of course, our fuel, our camping, our food, all of our extra expenses. Fortunately, no repairs. On the road expenses of like the DEF fluid or propane refills.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been reasonable. We're well under budget,
Mm-hmm.
which we're pleased to announce that. And of course, it's going to be lower now for the next couple months because number one, we're not traveling as far distances every day. And we're not spending as much on propane for heat. So that means even less campground fees of trying to find electric campgrounds.
Yeah.
So, and then our traveling is, your little rule of 222,
Oh, I don't know.
200 miles
Yeah.
every
Cool.
2 days.
Okay, go ahead.
Every 2 days, traveling 200 miles or less and stopping by 2 p.m.
Okay. I don't remember that.
I thought that was your rule.
No, I don't know.
Of course, at home, our expenses are still the same at home. Our cell phone plan is still the same, whether we're traveling or not. That's just part of our monthly budget. Our Starlink is the same, whether we're at home or traveling, because we do take our Starlink Gen 3 from home off the post and install it up in the skylight in the motorhome as we're traveling. And then when we get home, we move it back into the house. So that really is not an additional expense. So our back home costs are still the same. Our house is still there. We're paying for, insurance, taxes, just the lights that are there, even though, everything's turned down. We have, cameras monitoring, and we have a wonderful neighbor who is insisting to cut our lawn and take care of things and doesn't want any money for it. So we did leave a fund for fuel for the lawnmower. He's using our zero-turn rider lawnmower. We do have 2.5 acres of lawn. But when we get home, we're going to give him a nice gift. He's doing it out of the kindness of his heart. Maybe he's doing it so he doesn't have to look over at all the weeds in our yard. I don't know. But we see him on our cameras, on our security cameras, as he goes back and forth with the lawnmower. It beeps every time he's driving back and forth. Yeah. One other little mishap we had with one of our security cameras is kept going off every minute. We're like, what's going on? So we looked, and it's a spider web across the front of the camera. So we had to send our kids over. They only live a mile away, with a long-handled dust mop to get up there and get that spider web off of it. Yeah. But otherwise, that's about it for our back home costs. Mm-hmm. So as far as our budget goes, we're definitely enjoying ourselves. It's $76 a day for the experience, but it's priceless. Yeah. We're really enjoying ourselves.
Yep, seeing a lot of different views of a lot of different types of landscapes, which is pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm. So I think so far our roughest roads we've traveled was between Tok and Glen Allen, right?
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. Roller coaster roads.
Yeah, they're more
hard,
up and down
hard to
pavement.
Yeah, hard to tell what's the shortness of the roll makes it kind of difficult.
Yeah, and sometimes it rolls you side to side, forward and back. It's like 3-dimensional tipping. Now, the roughest road texture-wise for gravel, potholes, etc., was between Destruction Bay and Tok.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't horrible. We just went slow.
Yeah. And the McCarthy Road here is rather interesting.
Yeah, that's what we did last night, but now that's in next month's recap, and that'll be in a future video. But we did make it out to McCarthy. We've heard all the horror stories of, bring 2 tires and patch kits and,
Don't jinx us.
Yeah, I know. And you're going to have, railroad spikes. You're going to bust your windshields, all that. just go slow. When there's oncoming cars, slow right down, even to a stop. We had other RVers coming the other way that would do the same thing. And every once in a while, some little car would go flying past us. But if you're stopped, you have less chance of a rock smacking your windshield than if you're in motion.
I think so.
Yeah, but we did very well. We've had no other mishaps with accidents, or we've had no problems mechanical wise, knock on wood. Everything's been going smoothly.
Yep, it's been going pretty good. Yep.
And most of all, we're enjoying ourselves.
That's right.
Yeah, this is our bucket list. This has really been pretty good. So we're going to sit back here and pour another cup of coffee and say, let's continue our trip.